I'm here with Jewel to do a little demonstration on some clicker training. So when you first start, one of the concerns about clicker training is that your horse will start mugging you for treats, but if it's done correctly, you don't become that vending machine that your horse bumps and treats drop out of. So the first thing you got to do is sort of load up your clicker. Now, I don't have a clicker in my hand. What I do is make a tongue cluck. And I'm going to connect the tongue cluck with the reinforcer, which is a little bit of a treat, not a heck of a lot. And you can see she's very interested in what's in my hand. And hopefully we will get rid of that. So first I'm going to cluck and treat. And all that's doing is putting the connection, much like Pavlov's dogs, if you've heard of the ringing of the bell, bringing the food, the dogs salivate. Eventually you just ring the bell and the dogs salivate. Cluck and treat, or click, or use a word. You could use a word that you don't use very often, like yes is another way to reinforce her. Somebody I know uses just the letter X. X marks the spot. And what I will do next, once I've started to make a connection of the cluck to the treat, is that as soon as she moves her head away from me, that's what I'm going to reinforce. That's the behavior I want her to do. And we did a little bit of this last night, so she's figuring it out really quickly. It might take a little bit longer for your horse. And it doesn't matter if it's a noise or something that distracts them. If the head moves away from your space, you reinforce it regardless. It's the same as if you're training a puppy to sit. If they happen to sit in front of you, you give them the voice cue and praise. If she bumps me like she just did there, I just ignore it. I can use my free hand just to protect my space a little bit, but I don't want to push her head out of the way. So that's the first few steps. Now, what we do next, I've already reinforced one behavior, which was stay out of my space. So the more I consistently make sure that I'm presenting the food away from my body, not in close to me, the horse starts to look for the reinforcer to come, which is your treat, to come out in front. Is that stuck in your teeth, Jewel? She looks at me, nothing. I can move my little pouch away. She moves her head, cluck and treat. Good girl. So basically whatever behavior I want the horse to do, I'm going to look for that behavior, or I'm going to look for an approximation of that behavior. So basically a very small, what would be the tiniest step that would move her in the direction of the behavior I want, and I would reinforce for that. So let's just do something simple here because we're limited for space. So I could start asking her to take a step back. So I give her my voice cue. I'm going to touch her on the chest, back. And as soon as she does, I reinforce. The timing is very critical, which is why a sound is really what's tied to the reinforcer. The sound, the click, the word, needs to come precisely when the horse does what you're wanting them to do. The treat can be delayed, and eventually we can start to wean the treat out, so we become more than, instead of a vending machine, more like a slot machine that only drops a prize out every once in a while. And that actually makes the behavior even stronger. So Jewel, back. One step is all I'm looking for. Reinforce with the food away from my body so she's not looking at me for the treat. It's going to come out here somewhere. Walk on. Whoa. So I did two things there. One I asked her to walk on, which she already knows, so I don't need to reinforce that. And then whoa, and I reinforced for the whoa. Now, back, and you see how easily that one came from the voice cue. I didn't touch her. And that's what we should start to see happening after some repetitions. At first, I might need to touch the horse, but eventually a voice cue can be enough, which is great for taking things from the ground to when we're sitting on their backs. Back. Good girl. So I could do one step for forward, step. I wait, doesn't happen. Soon as she took that step, reinforce. Let's try another one. Step. Nothing happens. I will ask again. Back. So don't reinforce until the foot has actually moved. If I was doing this right from the beginning with a horse who didn't understand back, I would look for the shift of weight rather than the foot moving, and I would reinforce on the shift of weight. So that gives them the idea, well, that's the right thing. And then once he was shifting his weight, I would wait until the foot moved. We do it very progressively. Back. And you see a wait. I give her a chance to think about it and do it. It's giving her some choice and some control over what's happening. Good girl. And you can do simple things like this in just a couple of minutes. You can do 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be an hour. Back. So she stepped into my space. I asked her to back. She gets reinforced for backing. So that she'll learn that when she's not in my space, she gets reinforced. And if she's in my space, notice I'm not pushing her head away. I'm just blocking with my hand. She can hit my hand won't hit her head. Not pushing her head or hitting her head. I'm just creating a boundary. And my hand just follows the corner of her mouth. Good girl. And I can reinforce for her head being away and not trying to go over top of me. So that's a starting point, and I hope that helps you understand a little bit more about clicker training and how you can start to work with that with your horse without your horse looking at you as a vending machine.